we're sending We Fit porn. Um, I don't know if you saw in the other room. I was like, I want to send this, and I was like, I don't know. Like I was like afraid I was gonna piss off Marty.
I know.
That was
boy.
ridiculous.
I mean, it's strict graphics. That thing looks very well animated.
But you know what's? It's like her. It's okay that she's like very pale, but then when she's like topless, it's like, okay, what's wrong with her? And the dudes she's with are like all, white guys.
I love the guy just wearing like a fedora.
Oh my god! I want to send the one where they're like she's doing them both, and like their dicks are touching.
I sent the little Mac 1 motorboat in her.
Yeah. Oh, I hope I remember to pull this part out of the show.
Shut up and sit down.
What is going on, dads? And welcome to episode 17 of the Dads After Dark Show, recorded on Sunday, August 16th, 2020. We're your hosts, Drew and John. And thank you for joining us tonight for some Nintendo Toilet Boners.
Yes, John. Toilet boner.
Toilet boner. I have to say a little shout out to Dan Blockfort Retro over in our Discord channel. Guys, if you're not on our Discord, what are you doing? That is where the fun happens. So Dan asked a poll where, do you have it up in front of you, John? Essentially, he asked us.
Let me get it. Yeah. I remember question. The toilet boner.
The question started, here it goes. If you're taking a shit and you suddenly get a boner, do you A, push him, he refers to it as him, down to Toilet Town, okay, or set him free and hope that you don't pee? Let's be honest. Any guy out there listening has had this happen to them at some point. You're on the toilet and, it pops up. Nothing you can do. And it's a scary situation there. I think that was the question. I think that's what we're referring to here. And I will say, set them free and hope you don't pee was the winning answer there.
I think that's the right answer.
I think it's the right answer because I feel like you could cause some damage if you don't untuck it, let's say.
And it's kind of gross. I mean, like, it's like what, like in the age of COVID, right? Like, I mean, it could be, you could get a disease down there. So it's up to you.
So you're telling me you get COVID through your pee hole?
I have heard, I'm spreading this rumor right now that you can get COVID when your boner's rubbing against the inside of the toilet bowl.
Especially while you're shitting. I mean,
somebody get Fauci on the phone.
Oh, jeez. So, John, what's been going on in your life lately? How are you doing? What's going on?
I'm still at home. Drew, I did something this week you're going to love.
Oh, let's hear it.
You're going to love what a story. The Xbox One experiment is over.
This is like me hearing about how you're cheating on your poor wife. This is what I feel like. I feel like I'm the dirty man listening to my buddy cheat.
But I told you she played Ori too, so she was in on it.
Well, okay. I also heard she was playing around with that face app and sending you some toilet boner goodness.
Yeah, my wife sent me her face on Wonder Woman. It was like, that's pretty hot.
I'm sorry.
So my wife's face comes in super young on that app. It's so weird. She looks like pictures when she was like 18 years old. And it's just strange. I don't know why. It's very weird. She has a very young looking face as it is, but like, I mean, I swear she's like 18 on there. Yeah. No.
Well, anyway, you cheated. You cheated again. What happened?
So check this out. So I decided, and we'll talk about it later, but I decided I wanted to replay Tomb Raider. And Tomb Raider, this is the 2013 reboot, and it's in my top 10 favorite games of all time.
You say that a lot, John.
This one is for sure. Okay. I'll put it at 5. Let's say we'll put it at 5.
I want to see this list sometime. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
And so I wanted to replay it again. And I played through the whole series before on my PS4, and I purposefully did not 100% the games because I wanted to play through them again. So I purposefully did not, to give myself a reason. And also I played in my basement, so I just wanted to get out of my basement at some point. So Tomb Raider became the first game that I bought on my Xbox One X. I was really excited for it. I think it was like $40 when I looked previously. It was $20. I was like, all right, I'm in. This is the first game I'm going to own on the Xbox One. Everything else was Game Pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I buy it, and I'm all excited. And I can't remember what day this was. It was over the weekend. And I'm all excited, and I sit down to play it, and it just something was weird about the graphics. Well, what's going on? And then early on in the game, there's a part where Lara Croft gets like
naked.
She gets no, I wish.
Oh,
she gets jittery. She's cold, okay, and she's like freezing and she's shaking, right?
her nipples get hard.
No, they don't.
Oh,
and it just was like it looked really weird. And do you ever play an old game that you loved, and you're starting to realize that the mental image of the game in your head is not accurate? And,
yes, lots of times.
Yeah, and so I played all 3 of the Tomb Raiders, and obviously the latest one I think came out in 2019 or I think it was 2018.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, you know what? The game got better looking over the years, but in my brain, I still thought the first one was as good looking as the second and third ones, right? And so I was just disappointed. I was like, wow, this looks kind of ganky. Next thing I know, I run into a game-breaking bug where she's supposed to pick up a torch. There's supposed to be a cutscene where she picks up a torch, and she doesn't. And I got stuck in the game, and you don't get stuck in this game. This game tells you what to do next all the time. You're never, like, stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what the hell's going on? I looked it up, and a couple other people had experienced this sport before where the cutscene just doesn't happen, and you can't pick up the torch off the wall. You need a torch. It's sitting there on the wall, and you can't pick it up, and it's because a cutscene's supposed to do it. Long story short, I have to restart the game, but I also look up what's going on with the graphics, and I go through this wormhole, and it turns out the Xbox version. This is Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, okay? Mm-hmm. They remastered it soon after for the newer consoles because the original came out on like PS3, Xbox 360. The Tomb Raider Definitive Edition version on the Xbox One is 30 frames per second. On the PS4, it is 60 frames per second. So I was not crazy. This game looked better on the PS4. And you might be asking, how come an Xbox One X can't handle it? Well, it's not that it can't handle it. It's that they locked the frame rate to 30 frames a second so it wouldn't modulate. Because they, on the original Xbox One, it wasn't as powerful as the PS4, apparently. But now an Xbox One X should be able to handle this game just fine. And someone needs to flip that switch. Someone needs to say on the One X, make it 60 frames. And it's so frustrating. So I was so furious about it that I decided I'm going to switch my PS4 into my office. I had done this just temporarily for Last of Us, like last month, right? And yeah, so like I'm all set up on PS4. I'm going to play through Tomb Raider. I'm going to 100% it. And then I'm going to play Spider-Man. And then I think I'm going to play Witcher 3 and try to 100% that. So,
John, the moral of the story here is just don't cheat because you get disappointed.
Sometimes you cheat and then you want to cheat again. So yeah, my Xbox is back upstairs. And I wanted to cancel Game Pass just until I play it again. I'm going to get back to it at some point. And it turns out it renewed the day I decided to cancel it. So
one of those always happens.
I got 1 month of Game Pass I'm paying for, and I'm never going to use. So I tried to encourage my wife to pick out some games on Game Pass to play. So I'm hoping she can put it to use.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I do. Well, I'll talk about it later, but PS4 is just superior in almost every way to an Xbox One. I mean, I always knew that. I had fun getting my Xbox One, but in every way, it's just better. So I don't know. I'm not altogether disappointed. But man, Tomb Raider is just as good as I remember. That game is so good. So had a lot of fun. What have you been up to?
Busy life. Been busy with life. Not really going anywhere. Just busy. Got a lot of stuff going on at home. Trying to get a pool installed. Getting some trees knocked down. Just a lot of, life stuff, John,
Oh, yeah.
Nothing really crazy, but
and you're working in your office now, right? You're still in the office.
I'm still in the. We are considered a necessity or whatever the hell. What's the word they're using? Essential. We're an essential worker to the U.S. government. That's what they said.
It's really hard to imagine, Drew, you being essential to anything, but
I don't disagree with that. But I am somehow, and it's scary for the world. But you guys should be thanking me someday.
For our submarine warfare.
Sure. But yeah, I don't know, just busy with life. I don't have any fun video game stories like you do. Once we get into what we've been playing, I'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
But just enjoying life, John. Enjoying a lot of golf in my life right now.
And you're going on vacation again.
Oh, well, I feel like I'm going. Well, last time I just stayed at home. This time I'm going away up north, where COVID doesn't go. But should be fun.
Yeah.
Just getting away from it all, relaxation.
I envy it. I do. I would like to do the same. I'm already looking at taking another couple days PTO, and whenever I do it, it's like, okay, what video game am I going to play all day long?
Yeah, it sucks, but I mean that's what life is today. But
that is what life is.
Let's get into some of our news topics, shall we?
Pikmin 3 Deluxe is coming. Let me just preface this by saying the Nintendo Direct appears to be dead, at least for 2020. This is the second time now we've gotten information about a game that everyone looked at each other and said, well, they could have put that in a Direct, right?
No, they said, who cares?
Oh, I'm so excited for it, though. You're not excited for it?
Never played one. Don't really have any interest.
You haven't played any of them?
No. You
got to play one of them.
I've never played them, one. And two, you know how I feel about ports like this.
What's the difference? If you haven't played it, it's not a port.
It's just not feeling it.
Dude, Pikmin is really fun. Your kids, I guarantee you, your kids will be watching like crazy. It is total kid fodder. It's not a game series you have to play in order. But if you had the ability, playing through 1, 2, 3 is better.
Is it more of a puzzle? Is it a platformer? Is it an adventure? I mean, I don't even really know much about it, to be honest.
It's not a platformer. It's very unique. It's hard to put in a genre. It's more of a adventure game. You're not solving. I mean, there's kind of some like Zelda style puzzles, but I don't know. It's a hard genre, but you've got these little minions and you're trying to assign them to things. And as you get more and get deeper in the game, it just becomes like prioritization. Like, okay, I'm going to throw 20 Pikmin to kill this guy. And I'm going to throw 10 to go grab that apple. And, 5 to do this. And it's like resource management, adventure. It's a really hard game to put in a genre, but it's really fun. And I think this is a game that you would enjoy.
What is it? October?
Yeah, October, the day before Halloween.
We'll see. Probably not, but we'll see.
I think you would really like it. I think, and there's lots of extra content. I'm excited for it. I played through it on the Wii U, and I wasn't a huge Pikmin fan. I had played through all of them, and I wasn't much of a completionist. When I finished it, I just ended the game. I'm going to try to 100% it, but I'm really excited for the extra content. So I know that there's like new stuff. This one is regarded as the best Pikmin, of the series. So
we'll see. We'll see what's going on. But as of right now, it's a pass.
You'll change your mind.
We're to disagree there, John.
We always do this, Drew. We always do this. You're going to pass. Then you decide to play it. You become addicted.
Well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to make it like a monthly mayhem game and say, I can't pass.
I don't know if this is a good monthly mayhem game. We've done a few kind of adventure style games as a break. I don't know. I think we have to stick to more competitive games. So I
think next month we need to find a competitive game. Agreed.
We don't have one.
I know. We gotta find like a Downwell too. That a couple guys talked about that in our Discord. That was a fun game.
I sucked at Downwell.
That was great.
I want to beat Downwell though. I want to get back into it and beat it.
Is that like the only game in the world that I beat and you didn't, John?
Maybe.
Well,
I think
no,
there was another
no.
one.
Pine. I mean, let's be honest here. I'm a little bit better than you as a gamer.
I'm just gonna have to give that one to you, Drew. You got it. You got it. You know what? You were really good in golf.
It was.
I was really like very impressed. You weren't even just better than you were like monumentally better at golf in clubhouse games.
Yeah, and even I think golf was actually throwback, the first monthly tournament we've ever had ever.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that one back in the day, match play?
Oh, that's right on the NES app.
Monthly Mayhem. Yeah,
I remember that. Who did we play with? Because we did voice chat with that.
there was like 8 people. I think I played against Tim, and I don't remember who else I played with.
I think I played against Nick when he was Sir Nick Metzger.
Ooh.
And somebody else, but I can't remember who.
Was it? I think there was more than 4. I want to say there was like 8 people.
Maybe 8. Yeah, definitely not more than 8, but yeah.
No. That was fun. You know
fun.
what? I'll have to dig that up. I think I have it somewhere. Anywho, what else is going on? What else? I heard you were a little angry with me a week or 2 ago.
Drew almost got me fired from my job.
Well,
like not even a joke.
I had do not open this unless you're in private area. I said I have to find what I said, but I was pretty straightforward before you clicked the link.
So here's what happened. On our last episode, we were talking about it got dirty. Drew started talking about lots and lots of sex with the Wii Fit trainer. And
I asked for Dan to make me an animation. That's all.
And somehow, I think it was right after the show, or I think it was the next day, Drew like looks up to see if there's Wii Fit trainer porn, because we said there's probably Wii Fit trainer porn. I'm working and I work. I don't work in like national security or whatever, but my company gives me a company issued laptop, and it's like screened, right? Like you don't want to do anything dumb on your laptop. So I'm sitting there working. Drew sends out a link. I can't remember where you sent it. Was it the Dads After Dark channel?
No, I think it was a private.
It was private.
Yeah.
And I see it, and like it is like it's redacted, right? It's blacked out. Okay. And I'm so used to seeing that. A lot of times people are like putting spoilers, whatever, in blacked out text. So I click it and I click the link. Didn't even bat an eye. I mean, I didn't look at it. I didn't know what it was.
I'm glad that you trust me enough that just click it.
Well, there's nothing you're going to do to me.
Of course. I probably wouldn't know how, but let's be honest.
And I'm on my work laptop and I click it and double click it. And the next thing I see is like Wii Fit trainer porn. And I look up and it was a Pornhub.com link.
Oh, yeah. Pornhub.
And
finest quality. And this wasn't like an image. This was full out video that probably autoplayed when you clicked it.
Oh, and I've been meaning to go back and rewatch it. I was looking for the link earlier today.
I'll find it for you. Don't worry about that.
Okay. And I'm looking at it, and at that moment, I realized, I was like, oh my God, I'm on my work laptop. And I closed the link, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what do I do? Like did IT just have an alarm go off? You know, because there's a lot of sites that I look at during the day that I shouldn't be, right? I'm like on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, like that sort of stuff. But you got to think that, some of these porn sites just set off an alarm for an Instafire. And I was like terrified, one, that I would get an email saying, get off Pornhub. My manager would be notified, my wife, I was terrified.
Wife.
The whole rest of the day, I was waiting for something to happen. And luckily, 2 weeks have gone by. I was thinking of what my excuse would be. And I had a legitimate excuse, which is, I just clicked a link. I didn't even look at it. You will notice I only watched it for 2.5 seconds. Yeah. I didn't get fired, though.
That's all you needed. 2.5 seconds.
2.5
That's how good it was.
There had to be some alert somewhere. I'm sure I was put on some warning list. And if I did it again, I was going to be fired. So don't send me any more Pornhub links.
Well, I already sent it to you again, so.
Yeah. I mean, I figure you can send you porn, you know, and like maybe like that's like a different warning system. Resets my count.
That's
But
true. But the two in the same one, you're right.
I'll watch it later. Yeah. No, I've seen some of the video game porn, and it's just hilarious.
It's more comical. I agree.
It's not hot in the least. It's just weird.
No.
It makes you feel gross. But yeah, pretty funny. Pretty funny.
Oh boy. Anyway, this week you got angry. Hot topic.
Is this Apple? Are we going to talk about Apple and Fortnite? Let me just.
You can.
You didn't find this new, like, I don't know. Who do you. Okay, so basically what happened this week, if you're not aware, Fortnite pushed their app onto Apple, and they are doing. You can purchase V-Bucks in Fortnite without going through Apple's system. And this is apparently a violation of Apple's guidelines. And so Apple kicked Fortnite off of the App Store. I'm going to assume internally they pulled the app and then told Fortnite they need to change this. And Fortnite responded with, go to hell. And so they pulled the app off the store. And the story would have just ended there, or maybe with Fortnite fixing things up or changing their strategy. But no, they put out a video. Have you seen this video, the 1984 video?
Nope.
They put out a 1984 themed video modeled after Apple's famous 1984 commercial. Mm-hmm. And like on the screen is like a guy with like an Apple head. So they weren't like specifically saying this is Apple, but it's like clearly this is Apple. And the whole tone of the ad, which is Apple filmed this ad with, I mean, if you remember the classic ad, there's a woman who's like not wearing a bra, and she runs and throws a hammer at a screen that's supposed to represent PCs. And it's about Macintosh is coming, which is funny because the Macintosh technically is still here. We just call it the Mac. And now they're saying Apple has become, the evil from the 1984 ad. And I got to agree. I work as an Apple. If you don't know, I work as an Apple developer. I don't work for Apple. I have been an iPhone developer for 11 years now. I've been building iPhone apps. I've done it for companies. I've done it for firms. I've done it as an independent consultant. I've never done anything in the software industry longer than I have doing iPhone apps. I've always done weird things. I started doing iPhone because it was weird at the time. Now it's really mainstream. I still do it. And it pays really well, and I get a lot of side work through it, so I'm kind of stuck. But I can tell you, even though I'm an Apple developer, and I have an Apple laptop, and I have Apple iMacs all over the house, and I have an iPhone, and all of this stuff, I do not like Apple. I used to. I do not like Apple. And the reason being is they charge so much money for their shit. A MacBook Pro, which is basically, every developer has a MacBook Pro. These things run over $3,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I can't upgrade every year like I'd like to, like a professional developer should.
And Apple's good at making stuff stop working after a couple of years.
No, I would disagree with that. Their stuff
updates and shit.
Time.
I'm not saying the quality is poor. I mean more of the update portion of it, and features don't work. Look at the iPhone, for example, right?
Yeah.
Certain things won't work anymore unless you update, and you can't update on that version and whatnot.
iPhones do tend to feel like they're slowing down, and like for no reason, right? New operating systems shouldn't be super slow or anything, but no, I mean their stuff does last a while. I have some like 8-year-old iMacs that still work in the house. Now I wouldn't develop on them, but my kids can play games on them or program on them or something. But yeah, look, the laptops cost an arm and a leg, and it used to be like they had incredible quality, but I would say that the typical laptop probably has problems as much as any other PC nowadays.
Yep.
So, I mean, I had to replace the keyboard on my laptop just a few months ago, and it's not even that old. So, I upgrade every 4 years because at some point I need it, but it's expensive. Everything's expensive. you upgrade to the latest hardware. Remember they took the audio jack off the iPhone?
Yeah.
And everyone still used that. That was a pain in the ass. They took USB off of the laptops. So, like my
Really?
laptop has 4 USB-C ports, and that's it. It does not have USB, what they would consider USB-A.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when I upgraded to my laptop, I had to get like 3 different dongles, adapters. So like right now, my microphone is a USB and it's plugged into a USB-A to USB-C adapter.
Oh, jeez.
And I only have the one adapter because these adapters cost $40. So, I mean, I'm a professional, right? I should have a few lying around. No, I have one because I don't want to spend $120 on them.
It's the same thing of their AirPod headphones, right? They take away your aux jack, like you said, and then they charge, what are they, $200 for those stupid things?
Yes. Yeah, they're really expensive.
Yeah.
So they do this all the time. They took that port off, and nobody connects the headphones with the lightning jack into their phone, right? Like you said, you just use Bluetooth, and it just coincided with their AirPods. So
Fortnite pretty much said, "Fuck you."
Yeah. Thank you for keeping me straight here. So Fortnite basically, so the reason why Fortnite did what they did is because when you purchase an app or you do what they call in-app purchases, which is like, in the game, you buy a feature or whatever, Apple charges you 30%. So if, as a consumer, if you pay $10 for a feature or $10 for V-Bucks, $7 goes to Epic Games. Yeah. And then $3 would go to Apple. That's a lot. 30% is a lot.
So let me ask you this: what are the other companies doing?
Well, I believe Google does 30% now. They didn't always.
Yeah.
But Google basically said Apple's setting the standard, so we're just match it. Why wouldn't you? Right? Yeah, I mean, like, there's only 2 smartphones, and that's part of the problem here. There's only 2 smartphones. So if they're charging 30%, we'll charge 30%. So they do the same. They didn't go 35%. They didn't go 25%.
Consoles?
Consoles are different. I'm not sure. I'm not a console developer. So I don't even want to speak on that. But when it comes to mobile, they take 30% out.
Is that regardless, not just Fortnite? That's with anything?
Everybody. Yep.
So if you developed an app today and you sold it for $1, you only made 70 cents.
I only made 70 cents. Yeah. I mean, it's
I'll
ridiculous.
be honest. I get it's a lot, but at the same time, without them, you don't exist. So can't they kind of do whatever they want?
Yeah, but here's the problem. Yes, without them, then I can't even sell my app.
Correct.
But the problem is, without me, Apple can't sell their smartphone, right? Would you buy an?
It's like Nintendo. It's like Nintendo saying we're only making first-party games. Yes. Nobody else is coming to us. You'll get your. It's not smart business. I agree, but Apple is Apple, and they're monopoly in a way.
Well, and that's the problem. Do you have an iPhone or do you have an Android?
I have an iPhone.
Okay. So notice that I can ask you, do you have iPhone or Android? Because I know you have one or the other, right?
Right.
And you said iPhone, right?
Yep.
So if your iPhone didn't have Netflix on it, I don't think about some of the more popular apps that you use. I don't know, what apps do you use the most on your phone? Discord. Think about your phone. If you didn't have Netflix, Discord, Twitter, Facebook, whatever on your if they were not available on the iPhone, you probably would have bought an Android, right?
It's possible. Yeah. I would have. I agree with that. Yeah.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, if they just took Twitter off of iPhone, I would switch to Android tomorrow.
I mean, people bought Apple for FaceTime. Let's be honest. But I know it's on the other spectrum, though.
Yeah. I don't know how big the market is. I hate FaceTime.
There's so many other options that are.
But all of these apps, if these apps did not exist on the iPhone, people wouldn't buy the iPhone. So everybody needs each other. Apple needs the developers, and the developers need Apple and Google, right? Right. Mm-hmm. But 30% is a lot of money. What are they doing for me, right? If I put out an app and I sell like 10 licenses, so like 10 $5 licenses, right? Then I'm going to pay Apple a certain amount of money. Okay. I'm going to give them $15 whatever.
Well,
But they're not doing anything. But if and I won't even say Netflix, but if Fortnite sells billions of dollars, billions, and they have in V-Bucks, right? And then Apple gets a 30% cut. That literally could be $1 billion.
So let me ask you this,
and
because
they did nothing.
But stuff like that, right? Where you look at it, in-app purchases. You say Netflix. Netflix is subscription based. So
Yes.
how is Apple making money off of that?
They're not, and that's
Correct.
what makes it confusing. Yeah, they're not.
So how is? I feel like a V-Buck purchase is similar to. I mean, I guess it's a one-time thing, but
Well, it happens a lot.
no, I
But yeah.
gotcha.
I'm just saying the 30% cut. So this happened a few months ago. This actually started. This isn't the first time Apple's been seriously hit, but a company called Hey.com has made an email client. Okay. And one of the people behind it is a guy named DHH, right? I can't remember what his real name is, but it's the guy who made Ruby on Rails. And he's, and some other things. I think he did a Harvest or whatever, but he's worked on some really big projects. He's kind of a tech, mogul or whatever. And they put their app, they go to release their app on the App Store, and they are reported and they are declined. And they're declined because when you download the app, the email client, and it says, hey, do you want to sign up for email? Okay, you go to sign up. It takes you to the hey.com website, and then they have subscription fees. Well, Apple says, well, hold on here. You can't do this. You can't go to your website for people to pay. And it's like, why not? Like, we need people to sign up for our service, and our service costs money. They want everything to go through Apple's servers. Now, here's the problem I have. I mean, first of all, 30% is a lot of money. But second of all, it's a service, right? Yep. So if I'm doing my own payment processing, right? If I did the work myself, why are you forcing me to have to go through you? If I did it myself, how come Apple can't say, hey, we're going to do such a great job with this payment processing? You'll want to, and then you just have to pay 30%. Just like other services. People use services all the time where they could spend some money or they can do it themselves and put in more work, right? They should make it worth it so that they can just do it that way. And it was a huge thing. Eventually, Hey got on Apple, but it was a huge thing, and developers were pissed.
Has Fortnite pulled out of Android?
Yeah. So Google kicked Fortnite out as well, and as of right now, they're on neither platform. And that same day is when they released this ad. They basically had
I just watched it.
I just
watched it. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty directed at Apple.
And they have a lawsuit ready to go. So this is basically a huge, massive lawsuit that's going on. And essentially, they have to prove that this is a duopoly, that there's Google and there's iPhone, and that's it. And they're each taking advantage of it. I think they're going to win. They're each taking advantage of it. Their 30% cut is so high because they own a duopoly. There's no choice.
I get it, right? I get why Fortnite's doing it. And I get 30% is a lot. But without those two companies, and I'm not saying Fortnite would have folded. I'm not saying that. But 70% of the billions and billions of dollars that they're selling, would they be where they are today without those two companies?
I think so.
Just a question to throw out there. Would they be as successful? I don't know either. I'm just saying, I don't know how much money they make off the consoles. And I know it's a shit ton. A shit ton. But still 70% of all the sales they're doing mobile. A lot of people play that game mobile. I've been on planes and watched kids play entire battles on their iPad and shit, So like it's happening.
Yeah. But here's the problem though. You have to ask the question the other way. Why does Apple deserve 30% of the cut? Why? 30% is every single.
Well, let me ask you this:
they're just sitting there making billions of dollars doing nothing.
If you went to Target tomorrow and you bought a Fortnite toy, because they're everywhere, for $20, how much do you think that toy actually cost? And why aren't you mad about that? At what point is enough enough? Is what I'm trying to say, right? That toy probably cost $2, right? And whoever, whether it was Hasbro, whoever, manufacture the toys getting maybe 15%. Target's getting 15%. Maybe there's a third-party delivery company in there that's getting 5%.
Yeah.
And
but those companies
Epic
are
is getting
doing
maybe
something.
only 20% of that toy.
Those companies are doing something. That's my problem. Is if Target takes a cut,
But Apple
right?
provides service.
Their service is just a machine sitting there processing payments, and that's it. They created it one time, and that's it. And if Fortnite decides, oh, well, we just don't want to use your payment system, they can't. They're being forced into it. That's my problem.
Listen,
if you take your Fortnite toy, right?
Yeah.
If you go to Target and Target says, okay, but 15% of that price we're taking, Fortnite can say, well, no, we're just going to sell it somewhere else, okay? Or we'll sell it online. Target doesn't I just won't sell it in your store. Then that's fine. But with what we're having here is that, yes, Fortnite, they're gonna build their game and it's gonna be on Google and iPhone, and so be it. But forcing people to use their payment system is ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Listen, at the end of it, I don't disagree. I'm just trying to play devil advocate to think of all the different angles here.
And you're right. It's a little complicated. I mean, it's not straightforward.
I agree with the sense of the kind of the duopoly type look at it and view of it, where they can take advantage of these other companies. And in this case, Epic's not a small company. However, I could see where a small company like me and you came up with this idea and you developed an app and me and you were super excited and we pushed it out there. If we're selling 100 of these, every percentage counts, right? For a company like me and you that are trying to make our money back and then start, I get it from that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And I get maybe Fortnite has this money now that maybe these other companies and other apps don't have, right? So maybe they're sticking up for the little guys too. So
absolutely,
I'm interested to see what happens out of this. It's definitely it's interesting. Like I said, good for them, because most companies here would just say, "F it, it's not worth my aggravation and my time. I'm still getting 70% of billions of dollars, so it's irrelevant to me." But again, I think this is a lot bigger. I think they're just more like, well, you know what? F you guys,
Well, and one last point about that is it does hurt smaller companies, entrepreneurial companies that are getting in the App Store, and they feel like, might have a service they can only charge $5 for, and they lose $1.50, from it. Yep. And the other thing is, keep in mind, you, the consumer, pay that 30%. In fact, when they change the payment processing, they actually reduce their prices by 20%. So you can see where companies are actually charging more for these in-app purchases because they have to account. And I've done it before too. They account for the 30% they're going to lose from Apple, and that's a lot. Yeah. You're paying for it. And what is the value that Apple gives? It's not that much value. And honestly, I can tell you a lot of Apple developers are rooting for Epic Games, and I am for sure. I mean, even if they can get this lowered to 15% and make some sort of regulated standard, those companies would still make tons of money, and developers would not be as hurt by it. So I'm rooting for them, and I'm glad that, like you said, a company with tons and tons of money can take.
Let me ask this final question, and actually, I think the Nintendo dads maybe talked about this, but I'm not diverse enough to remember or understand. If I were to go into my Switch Epic account and buy V-Bucks, and then load up my Apple iPhone and try to play Fortnite, would I see the V-Bucks in my account?
I have no idea. I just don't play Fortnite enough.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it may be, and an individual would take advantage of that. But I think there's just such an audience that, they're playing on their iPad, their iPhone, or Android or whatever, and that's it. So certainly Fortnite could encourage that and say, hey, put the Scroogies on Apple and go buy it on your Switch. But yeah, Apple's taken advantage of the market long enough. It's hurt consumers, distribution of wealth, everything. I mean, Apple is the richest company in the world, and their campus, their corporate office looks like a space station. And it's like, how much more money do you have to take from just the little guy who just wants to play some Fortnite? Just let it go. You have enough money. Jesus Christ, Can't stand it.
Good topic. We beat it to death. Any other Anything other you want to touch here on the news, or do you want to move on?
I think it's time to talk about what we are playing.
Alrighty. I went like 10 days without touching my Switch, and I felt dirty. Felt weird.
Shouldn't
But I
you feel
don't.
not dirty? Like you didn't touch your Switch? You should feel pretty clean, right? Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Did somebody else touch your Switch?
I don't know.
I don't want to fucking hear it, Drew. You know why? You've been cheating too.
With
You've
what?
been cheating too because somebody's messing with Lego.
Ooh, Lego. You know, it's like a half cheat. It's like if you cheated, but I don't know. But it's not. It's not a full cheat because I have been cheating with the NES Classic Lego, and let me tell you, it is the most amazing thing. Probably one of the most amazing like merchandise, if you want to call it that, I've ever purchased. Never mind the best Lego I've ever built. It's just an engineering like masterpiece. It truly is. I'm gonna do a little bit of spoiler alert, I guess, if you can really spoil a Lego.
I don't think
But
you can.
it's really two major separate builds, right? You got the NES the NES system that you build, which also has an actual cartridge of Super Mario Brothers, and then also has a controller. And let me tell you, when I walk by this thing and it's in my, dining room or living room, wherever it is, it honestly looks like a real NES is sitting on my counter. And they've made some amazing things where the NES console has it has your aughts jack in the back. It has your controller plugs in. It has the little flap in the front where you can open it. And then you can actually, John, put the cartridge into the console, close, and then push it down. It clicks, stay in place, and then you can close the door. Absolutely amazing. It's like the real deal. And then the other portion of the build is you build like an old style tube TV. And what you do is you create a scene of the original first level of the game, where then they kind of have like Mario on this clear stick, and it kind of hovers over the scene that you built. So when you crank this little wheel, it actually moves Mario. It shows him like climbing up, it jumps on question blocks, etc. But it gets better that if you have the little Mario that comes with that starter set Lego build, that's more of the interactive one. I don't know if there's a name for it. The Bluetooth guy, if you put him on top of the TV, it actually plays the music of the game. And it actually is the way you build it. It has color coordinated tiles that moves. So it reads the tiles. So for example, you hit a question block, it kind of like makes that noise of kind of like what you're going to get. And then when you get a star, it plays the star music. If you get a mushroom, it plays like the mushroom sound effect. You pick up a coin. It's just, it's really well done. My kids loved it. It's definitely going to be something that I put up and display. So I've been cheating with Nintendo in a way, John.
Pretty cool. I was watching Wii Fit trainer porn while you were talking.
Oh boy.
No. I think that Lego thing is cool. I love the cartridge that you said. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I sent you like a little video of it. It was pretty cool.
What else? Someone on a podcast, I think it was on the Nintendo Dads, mentioned like putting out other cartridges. I think Marty had mentioned it, putting out other cartridges.
That'd be cool.
I was really conflicted on that because the Legend of Zelda Gold cartridge would be awesome. But oh my God, how many cartridges are you going to end up buying that don't do anything? Like one of the best thing about video game collecting is that you can play the games. They're not just like Elvis Presley statues. And it's like,
you
God,
build them. I mean, I'll be honest.
10
This entire build. Now, I took my time. I actually let my daughter help me a little bit, and she was taking a lot of slow time. She was looking for the pieces, and then I had to help her build a little bit. I kind of enjoyed myself and built it while watching TV at nighttime. I'm gonna say I probably got like 15 hours out of it, of the entire build. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. But what have you been doing?
I played a lot of games since the last
Well,
time we
that's not
talked.
really a surprise.
No, this like I finished a lot of games. When I still had my Xbox One, there was a bunch of games that I was interested in playing on the Switch that I just, I didn't want to buy. You know when you like these like 5-hour games and you're like, that looks really cool, and then you're like, I don't want to pay $20 for this, So Game Pass had a bunch of these indie games on it, and I took advantage of it. And it's one of the great uses of Game Pass. So I started off playing a game called The Gardens Between. This I knew nothing about this game, but it was very pretty looking, and I never really knew much about it, but I heard good things about it. This is a pretty cool game. Gardens Between is like a puzzle game, and it has a little story to it in the beginning, and you play through all these puzzles, and it definitely it piques your interest as to like, why am I playing these puzzles? There's got to be a story related to it, and it's hard to explain. And the puzzles are really interesting. You actually move time back and forth. Literally, one of the control sticks, the right stick, lets you forward time and backwards time. So you're these two characters. I don't remember your names, but you're two characters walking around these little islands, and you go backwards, you go forwards, and you can make changes to the environment, and some of those changes are unaffected by time. So like if you flip a switch and then reverse time, the switch is still flipped. It doesn't flip back. But most everything else does go backwards. It was really fun. I had a really good time playing it. I think it only took me a day to get through. And it was really good. I don't know if I can recommend it on the Switch. I didn't play it on the Switch. I'm sure the port is okay, but I mean, it looked really pretty on the Xbox One. But it was really fun. I think I've heard Marty say he really enjoyed that too. So it was pretty good. I would wait for like a sale or something. It doesn't have much replayability. But by the way, I don't like Xbox achievements at all. They're really hard to get. And I have never been tempted to try to like get all the achievements on Xbox. I thought I would get pulled into that, and I have not. I'm just not interested in it at all. I finished that one up, and then I went back to my Switch and I played a game that I've been waiting on, Panzer Paladin. I think we talked about this in the last show. It looked really
a lot of hype.
hot.
Yeah, a lot of hype.
I got myself really hyped on this one. This is the one, it's retro looking. It kind of reminds you of a Mega Man and some other NES titles that I didn't play, but like mech-based titles. And I was super excited. The sound sounded good. The music sounded good and all that. I gotta say, I really did not enjoy it all that much. I played through it. I beat it. Marty had played through this as well, and he said he enjoyed it. I just have to disagree with Marty on it. Here's my problem. It's like Mega Man style where you can pick which level you want to go through, but there's like 11 of them. It's not, just like here. Yep. There's 11 of them, and you don't get like the boss powers or anything like that. I don't know what the reasoning would be for switching between them. There's no inherent advantage that you get by picking a different order, which makes Mega Man really fun because you can try to find the optimal order or do it in a different order of that. The cool mechanic, and the game does have really cool mechanics, so don't get me wrong. The coolest mechanic in the game is that when you kill enemies, you sometimes pick up swords. It has nothing to do with the character you killed, but you can pick up a sword.
Random drop.
Yeah, and I mean, you get a ton of these weapons. Like, they pile up. You can hold on to like 4 at a time, and then after that they go into like some storage bin or whatever, and you can freely switch them out. I don't know why they limit it to 4 or whatever, but they do. And early on in the game I was playing, and I was like, I don't know where these weapons are going, and then I realized, they're all in this like store. There's not much difference between the weapons. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, so you can get like quicker in. Larger is better generally because you have a bigger reach, right?
Yeah, well,
but for the most part, it was hard to tell which were more powerful at a glance. You had to really look on the screen. what I ended up doing by like midway to the end of the game was I was picking up these strong weapons. And when you're going through a level, you always feel like the weapon is too strong, right? We've played games like this where you want to save your best weapons for final bosses or late in the game.
So are they breakable?
Yeah, they do. They break. They all wear down and break. Yeah, I mean, even Breath of the Wild is what we did.
Yeah.
You're going through levels. So what I figured out is when you go through the level, I was using my most crappiest weapons. Literally, short little weapons, not very powerful, that break pretty quickly because you pick up so many of them. I got through half the game, half the levels, just using the crappiest weapon possible. And then I would sometimes like use a powerful weapon against the boss. Sometimes I didn't even need to do it. It just got so monotonous. I don't know. It just got really monotonous. Every level was the same. The levels were really long. They just took forever. There was a halfway point, and another cool mechanic. You used a weapon. If you got to a halfway point, you used a weapon and you you shoved it into the hole, right? And if you died, you would go back to that save point. So in order to use a save point, you had to sacrifice a weapon. Which, of course, meant just picking your shittiest weapon and throwing it in. There was no value to using a powerful weapon, which I definitely did early on in the game before I started to figure it out.
Yep.
You get through halfway through, and then by that point, you probably are going to die because you've lost enough energy, and there's not that much. You don't get health as you go, except for like a couple places. So generally, you die. And then you start back up at the halfway point. You try to get to the end, and then right before the boss is a save point again, and you waste another weapon. And then if you had like 1 or 2 lives left, you had a pretty good chance at beating the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the same thing over and over again. The levels were so boring. There's nothing individual about them. There was no interesting platforming segments. Your character is very big. And just like big and slow and lumbering, which I think ended up being a bad choice. Because if you have a quicker, more nimble character, you can do more interesting platforming, like Mega Man.
Yeah.
And this one was just God. It was just like it was just very bland. And then you get to the end, and they do the same thing as Mega Man. You got through all the levels, and now here's like the Dr. Wily stages, and there's more. And there's like 17 levels in the game. It just way overstays its welcome. And yeah, it was like, got through it. The story was weird. And then there's like a good ending and a bad ending. And it's simply based on the last thing you do on the last screen. I got the bad ending. And I could have just gone and just replayed the level to get the good ending. I was like, I didn't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Very disappointing. I thought that game the music was great. The sound was great. I loved the game mechanics to it. But man, the level design, your character is just like, lumbering. It was just not as good as it could be. I would be excited for like a sequel to see if they can like make this more. It just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was a treat for the eyes. It wasn't fun. So I can't recommend Panzer Paladin. I'm very disappointed in that. Next game I played. This is like the new thing. This is the hot thing. Maybe this is a game you should pick up. Carrion.
Yep, looking at it right now, actually.
Yep. This is the reverse horror. You play the monster. I love games like that. So there's a science lab, and you play this gelatinous blob, and you get out of your containment, and you basically go around and eat scientists. And the goal of the game is to get out of the entire lab. This is a monstrous lab, and there's all these floors and like seals that you go through. And it is considered a Metroidvania, just because you get to places you can't advance, you go back, you get some powers. Really good game. I really enjoyed it. Didn't get stuck very often, which is how I grade Metroidvanias, seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
I had bad experiences with Super Metroid and a couple other games, Hollow Knight. Just getting stuck. I just can't stand getting stuck in Metroidvanias.
No, I agree.
I had a blast with this game. Your character, the blob, moves very quickly, and the sound effects and the way is just perfect. Like if you want to go to a door that's on the top right of the screen, you just go that way. And he sends out these little like lines of blob, and as he moves up, it's so cool looking. If you play it with the sound up or headphones, and you just hear these little like what's the sound like a blob makes when it flings at the wall, like lurches, and it's like it's so good. As you get through the game, your blob gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was really fun. It had a kind of a neat little end to it. Didn't have any cutscenes. I thought it could have benefited from more story. But it was really fun. Another game maybe I would wait for a sale. It has no replay value because you can 100% this game, but there's nothing telling you that you 100%ed it.
Okay.
Yeah, like you pick up these extra items. They're obviously extra, and it tells you found, lab number 3. But it doesn't tell you at the end, like, it doesn't let you like go back and, I don't know. It just didn't have a good way of reporting your percentage completion. So, but really fun. It was really fun. It was, I had a really good time with that.
Okay.
And then lastly of these little mini games, I finally got to play The Tourist.
This looks fun. Looking at this right now.
It is gorgeous looking.
Yeah.
This is the people that make like Fast RMX, like those games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I thought the trailer was gorgeous, and then I played, and the game was even more gorgeous.
Okay.
Really pretty. I recommend this one. It is not. I don't want to say it's simple. There's a lot of little quests that I wasn't able to finish. I couldn't figure them out. But everything's really fun to do. You're this tourist on an island. You show up, and you immediately like, oh, there's a coin on the pine tree, on the palm tree. Let me go get it.
Yeah.
Some lady talks to you, and she has a quest for you, and all the quests are unique. They're not boring. They're not fetch quests. They're just like, find us a good vacation spot for next time, or you know what I mean, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Very unique. There was a guy that's like, I'm a soccer coach, and you're like, train me, and he's like, why should I train you? And you have to convince him to train you to play soccer. It's just,
that's cool.
Yeah,
it's a very like, I'm looking at it. It looks gorgeous. Kind of like the cool little blocky-ish type feel.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's the shading of some sort makes it look really cool. Now, how long did it take you to beat this?
It was about 7 hours, I think.
Okay.
And there's like I said, there's still a few side quests I didn't finish. I might go back and do it. As long as my Game Pass subscription is still alive. Yeah, because I kind of finished it.
It's a little pricey on the Switch side.
What is it now? Is it still 20?
It's still 20.
I would wait for a sale again on that, but it's really good. It's fun. I can see multiple people in a household playing it. And like I said, I finished it, but like, I don't know, like it does show you like what you finished, all your quests, that sort of thing. I could definitely see myself going back and just trying to finish every little quest. Now, I do have some complaints on the game.
Okay.
There are, for whatever reason, these little areas that are massively frustrating to get through. And the first one I encountered, I cannot believe. The game is mostly like you jump on things, whatever. It's just, little puzzle solving, like a Zelda type game. There, you go into this room, and there is this worm thing, this like stone worm in the middle, and there's these 5 little fountains, these water fountains. So the water is like spouting up in the air.
Yep.
And there's these 5 rocks, and you figure out that if you put a rock on the fountain, the water will stop. Okay. And you figure out that I have to do all 5 of them. Okay. Pick up a rock, put it on the fountain, go to the next one, put it on the fountain, go to the next one. And then you look back, and this little rock worm knocked off the first one. And you're just like, hey, that's
I'm looking at it right now. It was in the trailer. Okay.
And you're like, that's annoying. I was in this fucking room for like 30 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
And I mean, the worm, I was trying to figure out how can I incapacitate the worm? I could not figure out how to do
you
that.
Fight at all, or is it all just puzzle related?
You do fight. I mean, you don't have a gun or anything like that. It's generally like manipulating objects and things like that. You can be killed, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's not like traditional combat.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, like I was so frustrated because it was like one of those things where you feel like there should be some other way to do this. I'm doing this the really hard way. I'm trying to get all 5 of these rocks and trying to be fast, but I could not figure out how to do it. So there's a bunch of little rooms throughout the game where you're just like, this is so frustrating. So I screamed a little bit on this, but overall, it's still a pretty short game. I definitely recommend it. I think you would enjoy it.
Cool.
It's really cool. So yeah, and now I've been working on Tomb Raider. I switched to the PS4. I am still loving the hell out of Tomb Raider. I think it's one of the best games ever. It's just so fun. The character Lara Croft is so cool. Just it has a great balance, especially after playing Last of Us. Just there's more action, there's more variety. The first game is very combat heavy too, but there's just so much variety to it. I love the character. I love her. I love the British accent she has. The story is a little like generic. You land on an island, and people are trying to kill you. But the interactions and the environments and the gameplay are just so fun. It's one of those things where it's like, that's fine. The story is not the most engaging in the world, but it's still cool. And I absolutely love it. Play it on the PS4. Don't play it on an Xbox. I still really wish they ported the Switch, but I have a feeling I won't play it again for a long time anyway, because I'm gonna 100% at this time. So I think this is the best modern series, the Tomb Raider series. I think it's the best modern game series. I absolutely adore it. So definitely recommend it. If you have a PS4, go play Tomb Raider. If you have not played Tomb Raider, go play Tomb Raider. You will love it. It's so good. That's all I've played so far.
So for me, besides my lighter, like I said, I finished my lighter. What happened was I finished Paper Mario after all those hours. We talked about it a ton, loved it. And then I needed a break a little bit, and that's when I got my lighter happened to come in. I built that. But I felt like I was doing wrong coming on tonight and talking about video games for 2 hours without playing my Switch. So I booted my Switch up today. Actually, I lied. I booted up last night, and I looked for something to play, and I searched for a half hour. And I just, sometimes it's like you want to get into a new game, but you just don't know what to get into. That's how I felt last night. There was a bunch of games where I was like, well, I could play that, but I don't really want to. So I went for a half hour and didn't pick anything. So this morning I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play something. So what am I going to play, John? I'm going to tie it into the monthly mayhem. And I said, I got to play myself some Donkey Kong Country. I got to make the fans proud. And I'll be honest, I've never played this before. Now, I knew what the game was. I knew all about it. I knew a lot about it, but I never really played it. And I sat down, and I beat it, John, in one sitting. My kids watched me. Then they got bored. They went upstairs, and I played the whole game, and I beat it. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It is what it was. It's exactly kind of what I expected. I used the heck out of the rewind feature. And I just enjoyed the game and the level design. I will say it's one of the few games where I actually enjoyed the water levels, the swimming levels.
Oh, it has pretty good music in the water levels.
Yeah. Speaking of that, the music was phenomenal in the water levels. 100%. You took the words out of my mouth there. But overall, the music was solid. I think it was in general, but. Fun game. I'm glad I played it. It didn't take me long. I think I played like an hour and 20 minutes. So yeah, it was good. And speaking of that, Mayhem is coming up to an end soon. So make sure all of you guys are out there August 23rd, right, John?
One more week.
That's
right.
One
more week. I know. I think we're pretty even on people playing Paper Mario and Donkey Kong Country, but you just played Donkey Kong Country, and your score is not going to count, right? Or you're going with your Paper Mario score.
Yeah, Paper Mario, I 100%ed the Toads. Like, and I only did like 40-something% of the Donkey Kong. As I said, I just collected as I went. I didn't, rewind or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I that's cool to hear about Donkey Kong Country because you hadn't played it, and it's a Super Nintendo title. It's a game that if you played on Super Nintendo a long time ago, it's like nostalgia heaven, right? I love this game, but playing it in 2020, it doesn't hold up all the way. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of rotoscoped graphics and whatever, but it's still fun. It's still cool.
I enjoyed it. Agreed.
I read a story the other day that was saying, and I hope I'm not getting this totally wrong, but Rare made this game, and when they made it, like Shigeru Miyamoto felt like it was too much like a Mario game. Like it was like a Mario 3, like you can tell by the overworld and stuff like that. It looked like a Mario 3 game.
Yeah, Super Mario World. Yeah, I mean, it's similar.
Yeah, I disagree with it. I mean, yeah, it's a platformer. They're all kind of like Mario, but I think it's pretty unique. I love the barrels, like flying between the barrels. And sometimes when
cool
you're trying to
concept.
get when you're trying to get the 4 letters. I don't know if you went for. I don't think you did, but looking at your percentage complete, you didn't.
No, there's a few levels, but not every one. No.
Right. And from my perspective, these games are the most fun when you make it a point to get all the collectibles. So maybe you have some replay value, or you hit the credits and you're done. Is that?
I'm done.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really fun. I played it for a little bit just when we were doing the rules, and I kind of got addicted to it for like 20 minutes. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I want to play the second one. Marty says the second one's his favorite. I've never played the second or third.
I never played those either.
Yeah,
it's really my only Donkey Kong game that I've really ever experienced, to be honest. I may have played one, maybe on the Wii.
The Donkey Kong Country Returns, I think it is.
Might have been it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Tropical Freeze is really great too.
Is it? That's...
Yeah, you should play Tropical Freeze. Are you looking for a game? Tropical Freeze.
I do. $60 these games are ports.
But is it still 60? Yeah, you can probably get it for 50, but it has so much content, it's worth it.
Really?
Yeah, especially if you 100%.
Looked it up.
I 100%ed all the letters, and now I need to do the time trials, and I think you can 200% the game. And I still want to go back to it. It's really good.
I wouldn't mind playing, the same type of game, but obviously with some newer graphics and stuff.
It would feel refreshingly different. It wouldn't feel like the same thing because you're talking about 4 iterations in between.
Of course. That's the newest one, right? Tropical Freeze?
It's the newest one, but it was on the Wii U, was ported to the Switch, but it is still the newest one. Definitely worth it. Yeah, give it a look. You need a game. Give it a look. Maybe I can send it to you. I can ship it to you. You can borrow mine. All right. What do you say we move on and actually talk about a topic
do it.
People might find timely this time? Let's do it.
Do it.
Do it. All right, Drew. Sometimes we have to talk about things that aren't Nintendo.
No, we don't.
You haven't been part of either of the bonus episodes. But I assure you this will get back to Nintendo. The big news this past week has been that Halo Infinite got delayed on the Xbox Series X. So are you familiar with the Xbox Series X?
I am now. Yep. I may not have been a little while ago, but I'm well aware of now. I'm aware of everything that happened. Talk about it. This is you. This is your baby, I guess. I'm not happy about it, but
yeah. The interesting story here is that the PS4 and the Xbox One, are this current gen, and they're both going after, high fidelity audiences, hardcore, gamers. I shouldn't use that term. I mean, you could be a hardcore gamer and play, casual games, right? But 3D shooter type gamers, right? These are the hardcore experiences, not unlike what we're sharing in our chat room. And here's what happened. The PS4 kicked the living shit out of the Xbox One, okay? Sales are 3-1, okay? So the PS4 won the title. And Microsoft is pissed, right? The Xbox division is pissed, okay? And so we have the new gen coming out. Xbox is really pitching its Game Pass, but that Xbox is trying to win this next generation, And the way they were going to do it, and their strategy has been to buy up studios. They have been buying up lots of these smaller studios, popular indie studios, popular big studios. And what they're looking to do is put out exclusives. The biggest reason why PS4 won this generation is their exclusives are incredible, right? Horizon Zero Dawn and Spider-Man and God of War. It's just like so many of them. The Last of Us 2, so many of them. The PS4 just destroyed Xbox. Xbox had like Cuphead and Cuphead and Ori, and both of those got ported to the Switch. And now Cuphead's on PS4.
Mm-hmm.
So Xbox needs to come in hard on this next generation. You have to think they have a bunch of big exclusives ready to go. Launch titles, here we go. And their big one was going to be Halo Infinite.
Mm-hmm.
And even as recently as the showcase a few weeks ago that we did the bonus episode on, Halo Infinite was supposed to be the launch title, and they delayed it. And they didn't just delay it a month. They delayed it to 2021. They didn't even give a month. So this thing is delayed for at least 4 months.
Yeah.
What does that do for the launch?
I think it hurts. Again, not that I care, but I think it hurts big time. I mean, I think there's two things, right? Anytime a console comes out, people usually make a decision well ahead of time if they're going to buy that console or not. Some of the people that are on the fence, I mean, 100% it comes with what are your launch titles, right? I mean, launch titles is a huge part of any console. I mean, I think realistically, software library is a huge part of any library, right? And I think, you look back to the Wii U era and other things, and you can blame whatever you want. But at the end of it, it's going to come down to, am I going to spend this much money on a console, and what am I going to be able to play with it? And I think for this one, Halo is a name that, I hate to say it, kind of redefined the genre of shooters and online play, and then these, aside from GoldenEye and all that other good stuff, but this is really what brought it into this online world. And I'm sure tons and tons of people had that nostalgia of coming back to it and the excitement level. So it will be interesting to see, what are they going to do? Are they just going to say, we don't have Halo, but we have this, and they're trying to scrap something together right now? Or are they just going to say, here's the console, a bunch of indies and other types, Xbox Pass, like you talked about, and we'll have other big titles coming out in the near future.
Yeah.
Because that should hurt them, right? When it comes to, let's say PlayStation comes out and says, I'm going to have this out. Or Nintendo comes out with some other, rebuttal and says, hey, we're coming out with an upgraded system, or we're going to come out with, Breath of the Wild 2, etc. And then people might start saying, well, you know what? I'm going to wait for Series X a little bit more until Halo comes out. And then by that time, 5 months goes by, who knows? Maybe, you don't have the money anymore, or you found other games came out. You bought
the other console. That's the real problem, because
absolutely,
at least early on, very few people are buying both of these. These are both going to be probably at least $400 consoles, probably $500, maybe $600. If you don't get that early purchase, that person not only bought the other console, but they're going to buy games for the other console for years, and they may never buy another console. I don't know the numbers of how many people have both a PS4 and an Xbox One. I do, but I just bought the Xbox One, and I don't even buy that many games for the PS4. But most gamers will pick one or the other and go with it, and that's it. I think it's interesting because right now there is nothing else launch-wise for the Xbox. Nothing. Their titles have actually been really unimpressive. I wasn't impressed with Halo Infinite myself, but it's one of those titles where, I mean, if you look at what your favorite best games are on the Nintendo Switch, you're probably not going to name Mario Odyssey #1, right? But Mario Odyssey is going to sell a lot of Switches. Sometimes it's that name recognition, and Halo is by far and away Xbox's most identifiable game. Halo. When you think of Xbox, you think Halo,
of course.
And it hasn't. From what I've heard, it hasn't even been all that hot lately. But it's just like with Nintendo and Mario, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing too: the PS5 doesn't have a great launch lineup, but they do have the Miles Morales game, the Spider-Man, whatever you want to call it, expansion, whatever. But there's the Miles Morales game. And say what you will, but Spider-Man sold extremely well. It's from everything a very good game that I will hopefully be playing soon. And so just having that is a really good game to get. And they have a couple other ones, like Deathloop and, whatever, second tier kind of games. Mm-hmm. But all Microsoft had was Halo Infinite.
Let me ask you this, John, because I think launch titles in general is such a big part of the console. I don't want to say it leads to the overall success, but I think it leads to maybe some of that original success. And I think from the company point of view, it's like guaranteeing you a huge success for that game, right? Because if you just launch a game in the middle of a cycle, it really depends on what's going on. But when you launch it with the game, look at Wii Sports, right? You bundle it even in there, and you can have crazy sales. So what would you say, like, opposed to, what's your thought on this? Like, would you ever think Xbox should delay the push of Series X, or let's take this out of the equation for a second. Let's say PlayStation 5 was not coming out, right? Yeah. Let's say just Series X was coming out this year, and Halo, which is their major game that everybody was going to buy that bought it, or 90% of people, would you delay, like, the system in that case, or no? You just get the system out there.
I think if let's say PS4 was going to launch PS5, Sony was going to launch PS5 next year.
Yep.
You know what? Holiday always seems to be a very popular time to launch a console, so maybe not. There's still some hope that Microsoft just hasn't, and we've seen Xbox and PS5. They seem to be holding back a little bit. They're trying to price tag, release date, what games are coming. But gosh, they have to have something else. They have to have something else that we just haven't seen.
But
so it could be that they just don't care right now. But we don't know of any other games at all.
But here's my problem too: is like you look at this game, right, the Halo game, and how do you fuck up that bad to miss this launch date? Like. That to me is a huge company problem. You've been building this console for God knows how long, right?
Yep.
You've been designing this game, developing this game for God knows how long. Like, I don't care if I was in management for Microsoft, like several people are getting fired over this. How do you miss that mark? That's huge.
It's a massive failure. I mean, it really is. And look, this is not the end of the world, but this is a massive failure. They're trying to come back. Yeah.
I think I think I'm not saying it's going to fail. The console's going to fail over that, especially for Xbox and PlayStation, which have much larger gaps in their system or their hardware releases. But I think this is a problem, right? And I think it's just a problem in general. And I think of launches as a whole. I think we need to kind of look back and do a little reminiscing. What do you think?
I think we should.
I think we should. Oh.
Let's take a look at this. So we had Xbox has fucked up its launch. We're saying it did. But I'm curious, let's look at some other Nintendo systems. Let's go back to the dip and look at the old launches of what these systems had and then see how successful they were. And we'll talk about it, and especially as it comes up towards the Switch and how important that launch was for the Switch. So let's start with the first console, Drewski. The Nintendo Entertainment System. By the way, I know the Switch passed Nintendo Entertainment System sales this past month. 60 million sales for the NES. But let's not forget, the NES was introduced when the gaming market was dead, and there was 100 million less Americans back then, okay? So a lot less people on the planet.
And people that not really knowing what video games were. It was a lot of money, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. I mean, and they marketed this as a toy, not as a video game system. So go ahead.
Well, even the games back then, weren't they still like $50?
I don't know. I don't know how much they were. I don't think they were 50.
Well, but, maybe equivalent if you think about the money, how they call it. Inflation, that's the word.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but the Nintendo Entertainment System came out October 18th, 1985. And we'll keep track. I noticed some patterns with the dates here.
Okay.
So October 18th, 1985, back in the day, I was 8 years old.
I was a wee little sperm.
You're just an egg hanging out in mom.
Not even.
The interesting thing about this launch is like the system obviously existed in Japan. It was known as the Famicom. And their launch lineup has just no third-party games. So like this is very unique in history. And their launch lineup is all the black box games that we know and love. So Super Mario Brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it drops off, right? These are the games that some people love and some people are like, what the fuck is that? 10-Yard Fights, which I loved. Baseball, which is awful. Clue Clue Land, Duck Hunt, Excite Bike, Golf, Gyromite.
Well,
a whole bunch.
Duck Hunt is pretty revolutionary for that.
It is a pretty classic game.
You got to think about this. 1985, your old school arcades is kind of the only place you really are playing video games, and now you're bringing video games to your home.
Right.
And with a Duck Hunt, it's like you're bringing an arcade cabinet to your home.
Correct.
So to see that, I personally think, I mean, though the game wasn't great, let's say, for the time being, I mean, it's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. For them, it's amazing.
And it was a pack-in game too for those early systems, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then Super Mario Brothers. I don't think we have to talk about it, but
that's the game that captures your attention because it looks so different from everything else.
And then and it's vibrant in colors, and it's just absolutely agreed.
And everybody has a black box game that they love, right? They're all shitty, right? Golf shitty. They're all bad games, but a lot of people love Excite Bike and all that. But it really is like it's I mean, I know people that love Clue Clue Land, and that's a weird one. But
which one? 10-Yard Fight game.
10-Yard Fight is a football game.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's fairly simple, and the thing I remember most about it is when you kick off. Mm-hmm. You control like all 5 players on the field, like they're in like box formation. And if you run right, everyone runs right. So it's kind of this funny thing where you're actually controlling the blocker and the runner at the same time. And I love playing it on the computer and just interlocking all the guys. Yeah. They run so slow. I don't know. It's just epic. But I actually got that when I got my Nintendo. 10-Yard Fight was one of the games I got. So it just means a lot to me. And I guarantee you a lot of people who got an NES love the games that they got with it. It's just it's special. Baseball was horrible though. So
move on.
That's 60 million. Not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But the next one here, this is one of my, believe it or not, we never talked about this much. Maybe we're gonna do an episode. One of my favorite consoles of all time, John.
I agree. What is it? What is it? You tell me, Drew.
Well, roughly about 4 years later, the old school classic Game Boy. And how many did this sell, John?
119 million in sales. Holy shit.
for back then, right?
Yeah.
Again, crazy because video games are still so new right now. And I think the launch titles were good here. They were great. Perfect, right? I mean, of course, the Tetris. Now, people are obsessed. Are you one of those obsessions in Tetris?
I do love Tetris. I wouldn't say I'm obsessed. I wish I was really good at it, but I mean, Tetris 99 is a game I still keep going back to. I mean,
it's not. It's okay. I mean, for me, it gets like it's just boring. It's repetitiveness. I don't know, but doesn't. I mean, I played a ton of it on the Game Boy. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Of course, it had Super Mario Land. I get this one confused a little bit. I'm trying to. No, actually, you know what? I remember this one. This was a great game, right? So everyone that
this is a great game. Are you sure you know what it is?
Well, I think it goes back to everyone that loved Super Mario Brothers, saw the name, and was like, "Ooh, what's this?" They loved Mario, so they thought it was similar in a way, and it's as similar as could be. I mean,
it's a weird version of Super Mario, and if you read the stories about this game, it was kind of like they needed a Super Mario game to launch the system with. The people that created the Game Boy actually created this game, and it doesn't play like Mario, but it's just quirky enough that it's still really fun.
But I don't know. I really enjoyed this game, to be honest, because I'm one that loves the Mario into a different type of atmosphere. And a good example of that is like Super Mario World. I mean, Super Mario 2, right?
Hmm?
Where I think this is kind of the Super Mario 2 of Game Boy, right? It is in a way where it has those unique levels where don't you do like the Easter Islands for one level? It's just weird
Yes.
stuff happening. Is this the one with the submarine, or am I getting that mixed with the six coins?
No, I believe it is the one with the submarine. There's a flying level too. You're in a plane, and you
Yeah.
rescue Daisy. This is where Daisy
Yep.
debuts.
You're fighting
Yeah.
like you go in the desert and you're fighting like you know, I like this game. I don't hate it. I think it works well on a Game Boy, you know.
Yeah. And you
Uh,
can blast through the game in an hour. The first time I ever played it, I was like, I want to play through Super Mario Land because I never played it, and an hour later it beaten it. But
But
it has
another-
that replayability. I don't know
does.
why it does.
I don't know.
It's just a game that's just fun to go through.
It's funny because you play these games today, you'd beat the entire game in less than an hour. But you play it back then, you would play this game for days and never beat it. You know?
Yeah.
It was just a weird thing. But another sleeper game that I absolutely loved at launch time was Alleyway, also known as what's that? The other word people call Alleyway, like the it's the one that you move the little paddle and the ball. You hit the ball and you have to blade the brush.
Is it
Block
like
Breaker.
Breakout?
Breakout. Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's the same one there. And what a fun game that always was for me.
I've never played this game. I actually own it. I bought it from someone, but like I
They're all
haven't
the
played it.
same. There's nothing really different about it. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought there was some type of Mario little. Yeah, you know what it was? There was like a Mario or two level. So like the Mario was all the Brits made up the shape of Mario. Nothing crazy.
Oh, okay.
You know,
yeah,
Nintendo loves doing that.
We should do an episode on Game Boy because
I think we
the
should.
thing about Game Boy is the games, they don't hold up really well, but the nostalgia is really strong, and there's so many games,
I know.
it's one of the most collectible systems for a lot of reasons.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of Game Boy games, but like collecting these little gray cartridges, it's like stamp collecting. It's like these little gray
Let's do that.
squares. Yeah.
That in our lot to do an
Oh.
whole episode on this.
And all these games are pretty short too.
They
Like
are.
as an adult, it's just blast through Alleyway, blast through Super Mario Land. Like you're not playing 40 hours. These are small. Play through Castlevania, play through Mega Man. Like you can play through these games really quick.
Absolutely. The other two, baseball and tennis. Remember the baseball? I think this was the one when you hit it and a pop up or something like. So you'd have to time it based on the sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fun. I mean, it's just a lot of good memories, like you said. But
yeah, there was a bunch of launch titles for Game Boy too. I didn't even list them all. It's just there's a lot of these launches have these little fringy games, but really interesting. We should play some Game Boy. That'll be fun.
let's do it. Let's do that. But let's move on for now.
Okay.
What came next?
So the next launch, 1991, is when we finally got the Super Nintendo. I think by this point the Sega Genesis was out, and obviously Nintendo was not competing anymore. Super Nintendo came out, and I think possibly has one of the best launch lineups in Nintendo history.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. It's funny now. We can look back at great retro games, but it's always hard to keep track of which ones were launch titles. Because you're looking at these games and going, I love that game. I love that game. And you're like, oh, did you know that was a launch title? And it's like, no, I did not know because I'm playing this game 30 years later.
Yeah.
Listen to this launch lineup. Super Mario World, first of all. I think that was the pack-in game, right? Forget it. Super Mario World. F-Zero. Now, this is one of the rare times where Nintendo had published multiple unbelievable games.
Mm-hmm.
And they had 3 because they also had Pilot Wings. So on launch day for Super Nintendo, you had Super Mario World, F-Zero, Pilot Wings. Oh, by the way, SimCity for the Super Nintendo came out at launch. What a fucking launch, man! Like, if that was me, I'd buy all of them. I'd have all the launch
everybody.
titles.
That's the key. When you do certain launches, right? I think that comes down to a lot of it too. Where back then, I think you saw multiple games that suited multiple people, right? You have all different types of games here. Where nowadays we just talked about Xbox and Halo, and what happens if Halo doesn't come out? Does it ruin the launch title for the hardware? And it's possible it does.
Right.
But what about the people that don't? You know, I think back then, and I don't know if it was because nowadays these games are just so in depth, but they used to do a really good job, I feel like, to try to give a wide variety of different launch games, you know, and maybe it was do more third-party support and whatnot, but
Yeah.
I don't think you see that as much nowadays.
Hey, you definitely call that. I mean, even if you're not, I mean, I wasn't interested in Halo Infinite, so it doesn't affect me. But yeah, I mean, there's a segment of people that were gonna, buy in day one to get Halo Infinite, and the same goes here. I mean, SimCity to me is very similar to like Tetris. Like, this is a game for casual players who play, want to play something a little more interesting. But then you have only one of the best platformers ever made on the system. Oh, and you have one of the best racing games. So. I mean, that's just an incredible launch. There was also Gradius 3, which, isn't like a classic of all time, but a very good game on Super Nintendo. So incredible launch. So there was 49 million Super Nintendos sold. So if you go by launch, Super Nintendo had one of the best launches in Nintendo history. It is weird. They only sold 49 million in sales.
I want to look something up here. I want to see, when did Sega come out?
That's what I think did it. I think people only
January
had one
9th,
console.
1989, is that right?
That sounds...
Yeah, 1989. So, wow, it came out over 2 years before then, because I'm going to be blunt with you, John. I was a Sega Genesis owner and not a Super Nintendo owner. And that's, at that age for me, I was young. I received it from my grandmother as a gift. And I missed out on a lot of Super Nintendo stuff. And I really didn't pick back up until N64 when I was really almost 10 years old. At that time, like a real good gamer, or more avid gamer, I guess I could say rather. So I think that's when the first time Nintendo saw the hit, right? Where they had some competition and a competitor, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I think that really did that
move on all the way almost to the 2000s, to be honest.
Right. When you talk about the bit wars and all that jazz, I mean, one of the big things was kids either had a Super Nintendo or they had a Genesis. Very rarely did someone have multiple consoles, because these were still toys for kids. And if you got a Super Nintendo, your parents didn't want to get you a different console. And they have to get games for that one too. Yeah. I think the reason why it did sell less was because of the competition from the Genesis. Because if you look back now at the library for Super Nintendo, the thing that really stands out about it is it really holds up today. And don't get me wrong, there's Genesis games that hold up too. But the 16-bit games are as playable today. Like, you just played Donkey Kong Country.
I just played that
whereas the NES games don't hold up as well. There's some classics, but they don't hold up as well today.
8-bit, it's crazy. 8-bit for a 16-bit is really a big difference. And if you look at the Sega, which is what, a lot of it is some of the newer ones are 32-bit, right? I feel like the 16 compared to 32 doesn't seem that big of a deal to me. But 8, when you make the 8 to 16 jump, it's massive, which is weird, right? But like you said, Super Nintendo holds up huge.
Yeah. The other funny thing about that is that there's a lot of games that are on the NES and the SNES, more so than on the Sega systems. So there's these direct comparisons, and that I think that accentuates the update. It's just the same game.
Ports even bet then, John.
Yeah, exactly. And they're so much better on the Super Nintendo.
Yep.
All right, what came out next, Drew? The best system of all time.
So Nintendo tried to be different, like they always do, and I feel like this is where they really started to try to branch out into these newer technologies, and that's when 4 years later, after Super Nintendo, came out the Virtual Boy. So in August of 1995, actually 2-year anniversary. 2 day anniversary. 2 days ago was their anniversary.
That's right.
But yeah, it was sold only less than 1 million units, John. And now, what would you say the main reason for this was? Was it just the concept was a failed concept?
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, it's a system that does not hold up today. It's barely playable today. I like that it sold less than 1 million because I have a boxed version of it, and it'll assure my value. Yeah, it's just, if you've never played a Virtual Boy, it's red and black, and that's it, 2 colors. And you put your head in a visor that it's not like virtual reality where it straps on and you can move around. And it was, it was trying to be like virtual reality, but it wasn't. You just had it on a table and you just sat there. And I think one of the biggest problems with the system, besides the fact that if you play it for like 10 minutes, you're going to get a headache, is that nobody can enjoy the experience with you. Even a PSVR today, you can see it on the TV screen. So if you have like a couple friends or your siblings over, they could be watching what you're doing on the screen while you play. But on a Virtual Boy, you're like, hey, you want to play Virtual Boy? Okay. And then you just sit there. You put your head in the visor like this.
Yeah.
And now you're playing Virtual Boy and you're going, oh. And your friend's just sitting there going, well, this ain't fun. Your friend's probably like masturbating because you can't watch,
Well, too bad Wii Fit porn wasn't a thing back then.
Yes.
But here's my problem, right? So you had the Game Boy 89. You had Super Nintendo come out in 91. Now back in 95. This was, believe it or not, the Game Boy was a huge success. And they said, all right, let's work on our home console, Super Nintendo. Meanwhile, let's work on our portable console. And this really was, the Virtual Boy really was their next portable console concept. Whether you want to believe it or not, this, in my eyes, was their next take on the portable console or Game Boy.
Intention. Yeah,
this
was supposed to be a portable.
And you know that because 1 year after this is what we're going to get to in a second, was when they came out with their next home console, right? So this was a failed portable console. And it wasn't that portable, but to them it was. Because you didn't need a TV, let's say, right? It was all encompassed. It was a self-sustained system.
You could play. You could use a battery. They had a battery pack that was optional. It's just poorly designed. Even today, like the cables inside will come apart. You have to like bake the cables, or you have to solder the cables in. I actually had somebody in one of our gaming groups who lived in Wisconsin solder my cables. I sent him my cables. He sent them back. And I'll tell you what. The launch titles. Let's go. The launch titles for this system, right? Mario's Tennis.
That's the famous really one. Weird. That's anytime if you Google it, you probably see that. I agree.
Yeah.
But again, tennis is also a very specific game where, even today, people like it or they hate it. There's not really an in-between where, oh, yeah, I'm going to pick up Mario Tennis because I just like Mario. It's not really like that,
Yeah. And it's not virtual reality. This is back when virtual reality was the buzz. And it's not virtual reality, It's like, I feel like by calling it virtual, they gave people some really unrealistic expectations, and nothing was going to make the system succeed. But, when the ball's coming towards you, it's getting bigger, but it's really just more of like first-person perspective type thing. But Mario's Tennis is fun, and Red Alarm was the other big launch title here, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And I want to, I like playing the Virtual Boy. I mean, I would play mine more if it wasn't for the fact it was just such a hassle to set it up, hope that your cables worked, all this jazz. It's a pain. It's just it's like the Wii for me. It's the Wii is a pain to get set up to play. This Virtual Boy is the same, but it has some fun experiences. Tellero Boxer was a launch title as well. It has some fun experiences. So, it's just unfortunate that it has all of these shortcomings. And the weird part about this is they discontinued the Virtual Boy in less than a year. That's nuts. I mean, even the Wii U lasted for like 5 years. All right, next up, Nintendo licking their wounds a year later, September 26th, 1996. The Nintendo 64 is launched. And it came with a little game called Super Mario 64, which I don't believe was a pack-in game. I think they sold that one separately. Super Mario 64 and I would hope so because their launch lineup sucked. Super Mario 64 and Pilot Wings 64. That was the launch lineup for the Nintendo 64. 2 games. Not great. Now, here's the thing. The NES sold 60 million. Super Nintendo, 49 million. the N64 would sell 33 million. So in 2 generations, half their sales. This is alarming.
Well, at the same time, this goes back to what we said earlier. This is now you're entering into your competitor. PlayStation came out about a year before, maybe 2 years before.
Oh.
And it goes back to that, being able to afford 2 consoles in your house, right? And you hate to say it, but PlayStation graphics at that time were well above their time. And now 2 years later, a console comes out and it doesn't look as good. And this is where I feel like Nintendo really started to fall behind, right? With their competitors.
Big time.
Because up until this time, I truly believe they had the edge. Even like you said, Super Nintendo may have had less bits, let's say, but I still think their games held up against that. Now it's like our competitors have surpassed us, in the 10 years that we've been putting out video games.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, Super Mario 64 was one of those games that just blew you away when you saw it.
Agreed.
And it is sad that they didn't have that many sales, but the PlayStation had been out for a couple of years. And I mean, that the system had a CD. The games were on the CD. It was so futuristic. And I can't imagine, seeing the N64 and going, oh, it's a cartridge again? Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And like some of the games that were on both systems always looked way better on PlayStation. This is to me, this is the low point for Nintendo, even though we'll see from sales, it wasn't. But yeah, so here we go. We got another portable coming out in 2001. Tell us about this portable. It's one of my favorites, Drew.
Well, you know what? You tell about it, because I honestly, I passed on this one, and you tell me about it because it's one of your favorites. I'll talk about the next one.
This is one of my top 3 consoles of all time. The Game Boy Advance. June 11th, 2001, 81 million sales total. It lasted a long time, multiple variations of it. This is, I think, one of the best systems. It has some of the best versions of Metroid games on it. It has great Zelda games on it. It did everything. It had the first backlit system.
Mm-hmm.
If you play a Game Boy Advance these days, the SP101 is the way to go. But here was their launch lineup: Super Mario Advance and F-Zero Maximum Velocity. They had a bunch of other games. They had Dodgeball Advance, Fire Pro Wrestling, but really that's what Nintendo came out with. I think it's very clear that Super Mario Advance was just something they threw together quickly because they wanted to put Mario out at launch.
Super Mario Advance, is that just a remake of the other games?
It is. It's one of the more confusing things. Super Mario Advance is Super Mario 2 and the original Mario Brothers game.
So it's 2 separate games included?
Yes. And they're not like just straight ports. They look different. There's some color differences. They also made Mario Brothers. I think they made it a 4-player game that you can play with the Game Link. So that was cool.
Okay.
But that whole series is like this random mishmash of games. I remember Super Mario Advance 4 was Super Mario 3. It's kind of weird, but yeah, it's basically Super Mario 2. It's a really weird launch title, but if you want to argue that the Halo Infinite delay is not a big deal, pointing to the Game Boy Advance launch is what you're going to do, because this is a pretty shitty launch in terms of games available. And this is a system that had some of the best games ever made on it. But 81 million sales, obviously the launch didn't do anything to crush it.
I think with the success of the Game Boy, people looked at this and said, wow, it's Game Boy 2.0. And Game Boy was amazing. And I never, like I said, I never really picked this up. My Game Boy held strong for many, many, many years. But at the same time, I was starting to lean into the next console that comes out, which we'll get to in a minute. So what was some of your favorite games, John, or some of the launch titles here?
On the GameCube, this is interesting because between the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube was 9/11. And I think if I remember right, they actually pushed the launch of the GameCube out because of that. So November 18th, 2001, the GameCube came out. And this also had an incredible launch lineup, but it only sold 21 million. I'm actually shocked the GameCube only sold 21 million.
Well, I think Xbox came out in 2001, John. So now you're
Yeah,
introducing a third system here, third
and the
company.
PS. Yeah, it was going up against the PS2 and still the PS1, but the GameCube is so much better than N64. The GameCube launch titles were Luigi's Mansion, which was a disappointment at the time because it wasn't a Mario game, but like now, I mean, this game is great. I love Luigi's Mansion.
Yep.
And what I think is one of the most wild, incredible launch titles I ever saw because it sold me on the system right away. Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. There's a bunch of Rogue Squadron games, but this is the one where, holy shit, man, you're flying on the planet. I mean, this game still holds up today, which is incredible to think. I remember seeing this and I was like, absolutely have to have it. And then they also had Wave Race Blue Storm, because there was a Wave Race on. Is this the third Wave Race? Wasn't there a Wave Race on?
Was the first one?
Okay.
This is the second one.
Yeah. They had a bunch of other games too. They had a Batman game, Crazy Taxi Port, Super Monkey Ball. Luigi, I mean, I thought GameCube had a pretty good launch.
I think GameCube has one of the most diverse and best software libraries out of any system. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you another fun fact is, I could guarantee you, I think that GameCube, I've probably logged the most hours out of any video game system, period, was probably on the GameCube.
Yeah.
That was the age, and I just put so many hours into that system. Amazing. There's so many good games.
Yeah.
And those graphics will hold up for almost ever, like you said, because they're just that perfect simplicity, especially all the Mario's games,
Yep. And it holds up so well today. Like those N64 games do not hold up at all. But GameCube games still look great today.
They really do.
Playable.
I could throw in Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, John, and it is like a brand new game that I love. And I thought about doing that this weekend, but maybe soon. I might have to.
Yeah. But man, it's disappointing. GameCube only sold 21 million. It's kind of shocking. I mean, it's just there's such a community for it nowadays.
For the amount of games that they put out, I agree. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Well, it really had a 5-year cycle too before the Wii came out, but
all the systems did.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously Nintendo is making bank on their portables because their portables are. I mean, the portables largely didn't have much competition, and even when they did have, I mean, there was portables that had better capabilities than Nintendo, but they just consistently just wrecked the market with portables.
Yep.
And their next portable is almost the best-selling console ever made. What was it, Drew?
Well, the Nintendo DS, and I think everyone says it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a great system, but I think the reason why it is known for so many sales is for several reasons. One, there's a lot of iterations of them, and two, there's people like you, John. How many Nintendo DSs do you think you have?
I didn't have that many DSs. I might have had 2. I bought mostly 3DSs, and that doesn't even include this market.
But this was really, again, besides some of the N64 and GameCube color variations, color variations on a home console nowadays might be a little bit different, but back then it wasn't a big deal. But portables, where you're bringing them everywhere, and it's almost like an accessory. You want to look cool. You want to look pretty. You want the best of the best. So this is the one people would go after, And but their launch titles, John, pretty weak. Pretty weak.
Disappointing.
Very
classic,
disappointing.
Though.
This was also one of the first times that we really started seeing direct port remakes, right, of Super Mario 64 DS, right? So now we're getting into the world of, this game being 8 years old. It was a big game for them, groundbreaking. I owned it. I don't know about you. I played it.
That's a good point. That really is a good point. Yeah, Super Mario 64 DS was the huge launch title for this. And it's funny, like, looking at it now, like, the N64 wasn't that far back, right? It wasn't even 10 years when Super Mario 64 came out. But, they remade it. It didn't look a million times better. It was mostly the same game. But they did make some changes to the game, and they added some different characters, and you could play it portably.
That's the key, right? Being able to play this game portable, I think, is what the huge selling point was. Because I think so many people loved this game, but imagine today Switch 2 comes out and they say, I don't know, Twilight Princess or Wind Waker is going to be the launch title.
Yep.
How disappointed do you think people would be? I think there'd be riots. I mean, people would be pissed.
Yeah. It worked for the DS though, and I gotta call out Feel the Magic. That was a Sega game, and like the DS was obviously a stylus-based system, and Feel the Magic was this weird game. I can't even remember what the point of it was, but I remember being so hyped up for it. And it was just this weird, quirky game that just had all these weird touchscreen games. And this was before smartphones. And still, like, that's a favorite of mine. And even though it seems weird, this weird game that never got a sequel, never got ported or anything like that, probably can't even exist on any other console. I mean, this game is inextricably linked with the DS. It's one of those must-play games. Feel the Magic. And that was an important launch title, even if Super Mario 64 DS was the big one there. But 154 million in sales worldwide. Only one console outsold the DS. Do you know what it is, Drew?
I want to say it's the Wii, John.
Nope.
Wait, what was the question? Say it again.
Only one console outsold the Nintendo DS. It's not a Nintendo console.
I don't know. What do you got?
It's the PS2.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah. This is also the time where I would make an argument that PS2 sold like I think the PS2 sold 157 million. It like barely beat out the DS. Even though it came out before the DS. Where I think a lot of lasers just went out on the PS2. I think the 157 million is a lot of people buying multiple PS2s. And then they had a slimmer version and all that jazz. So, because PS2s today, it is hard to find a working one. And I think that's why. And the DS sold, this many probably because a lot of people bought multiple DSs. And the line went a really long time. I mean, the DS line was like 2004 to what the 3DS came out in like 2011. So you're talking 7 years. But I think the sales get a little quirky here, but the DS sold 154 million. My gosh. And then 2 years later, November 19th, 2006, I know where I was on this day. We got the Nintendo Wii. Now,
yes, we did.
Look at the sales. We gone from 60 million for the NES all the way down to the GameCube with 21 million, right? The low point for Nintendo. Their portables are carrying them. Their consoles are languishing, even though a lot of them had really great games and are classics. Mm-hmm. And the Wii comes out, and I remember the motion controls. I fell hook, line, and sinker for this stuff. And I was in line. This is the first console I waited in line for on launch day.
Me too.
Oh, so good.
I did. I slept out for it.
And say what you will about the Wii, it sold 101 million units. And that was not with people buying multiple, by the way, because they only had like one other model. I mean, people had one Wii. Mm-hmm. But this thing sold out in retirement homes. This sold out everywhere. Your parents bought one. Everyone. This was the first console. Yeah. Everyone was buying them.
Agreed.
And it also had an amazing launch lineup. Came with Wii Sports.
That's all you needed. Let's be honest. All you needed.
Yeah. And by this time, systems weren't really coming with games for a while. So this was like a throwback. Came with Wii Sports, and then Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess launched this day. It also launched on GameCube the same day, but it was a launch title for the Wii. So it was kind of similar to what like Breath of the Wild did. Mm-hmm. And then Red Steel. Do you remember? Red Steel was very hyped up.
Was it a shooting game?
It was, you were a ninja and you had a sword, and
sword type.
They really led you to believe that it was going to be like this 1-to-1 control with your Wiimote. It was just like, whoa. Yeah. And then you realized, no, it is not 1-to-1. It is your sword went sideways or it went straight or diagonal, and it was just the closest approximation of your motion. And then Excite Truck, which was actually actually pretty hyped up because
It was
Excitebike
it
never
was
had a sequel.
out of nowhere. It was kind of weird that it was so hyped, but I remember it being very hyped.
Yeah. And when I was putting this list together, I remembered back in this day, some of the games actually came out before the system. And I think it was like a day or two before the Wii came out. The three titles I bought for the launch were Twilight Princess, Madden NFL 07, and it's still my favorite Madden game, by the way, because of the motion controls, and Call of Duty 3. Believe it or not, I bought Call of Duty 3.
I did too. I owned it.
Yeah. So, and it was fun.
I thought it was amazing. Just because of the time, you know.
Yeah, and it was all motion control stuff, and motion control was really new and fun. And like I said, I loved Madden NFL because like I would like pretend I was the quarterback and I'd have my controller and then I would like wing it, you know. Yeah, it's still my favorite Madden game.
Yeah.
101 million units. And what do we got, Drew? Next, 5 years later, it's weird. The Nintendo 3DS launched in 2011. Feels older than that.
Which is quite some time, really, almost 7 years after the DS. So they definitely sat on the DS, right? They, like you said, racked up a ton of sales, and they just sat on it and continued to put software out. And then they were developing the new technology of the 3D element, and I remember that was like a selling point. You're like, oh my God, it's in 3D, and that you don't need glasses. Like, I don't understand. It's going to be so cool. And you got it, and it was cool. And there was times you turned it off, and there was times you turned it off all the way. And I mean, the 3DS obviously did amazing with 75 million sales total. Right. But their big push for this console was an odd choice: Nintendo dogs and cats. I mean, did you play that game?
I played the crap out of the original game on the DS, Nintendogs.
Yeah.
I was actually pretty excited for this one. I was like, I was excited to get back into it. I always found this game disappointing. I found the user interface was very serious. It was less lighthearted than the original. And for some reason I couldn't get into this one. And a lot of it was the same. One day I would actually, this is a game that one day I might try to get back into because there's more things you can do with the dogs than the first game.
You know, John,
I
that's
never
probably
really
one of the weirdest things you've ever said. One day you're going to get back into Nintendogs.
Dude, 3DS is still a system I love to play, and I go back rarely, but the 3DS and the Game Boy Advance are still systems that I play. And this is a game I would like to go through. I beat Nintendogs. That doesn't sound good.
Well, you said it, not me.
I mean, I don't advocate animal cruelty here, but I beat Nintendogs, and I'd love to beat some cats too.
I didn't know that was really a game you could beat, to be honest.
Well, you got to beat the dogs and the cats. Yeah.
But after
this is a shitty launch.
After they rode the coattails and they continued to deliver tons of versions of that, quickly after, about a year and a half after, they introduced what I think is still one of the most underrated systems of all time. And I stand by that, and I've talked about it, John. What do we got?
The Wii U!
So underrated. Game-changing technology, I think, that they capitalized perfectly. Were they ahead of their time? Yes. But I still don't think people have enough credit for this. Now, let me ask you this really quick, not to get off topic. Why did you think the Wii U failed?
The Wii U failed because it was a piece of hardware that felt outdated on launch day. We had tablets. The iPad was out at the time. The tablets were the big thing. And you held this gamepad. And granted, the gamepad had to be thicker because you're holding it and you're playing with it. But it didn't feel like, I remember the first day playing this and feeling like, okay, this feels like an old pad. Like it didn't feel like the Switch did on day one. And then the other thing I think that killed it was you have this dual screen experience, and all these developers had to develop second screen experiences for their games.
A lot of time and money for that.
Yes. Yeah. And the ports
they didn't know what to
really
do.
dried up.
This is the new thing, right? They didn't really know how to do it. But I think the software for the Wii U, in my eyes, wasn't bad.
No, it was great.
You know,
There's
they had
still-
the new Super Mario Brothers U, which look, I mean, the software was so good that the Switch now is porting them over. They wouldn't have done that, right?
Yeah.
Zombie U. We don't need to talk about that. Big advocates here on
Well, no,
Dads.
Zombie. Yeah, we both love Zombie U. They did hype up Zombie U.
They did.
This was like the big third-party title for the system. That was
But
fantastic.
I think this goes back to the wide variety, which I think they actually did very well for the launch. They had a wide variety of games. Nintendo Land, say what you want about it, it was what it was. You knew exactly what you were getting. But they continued with third-party support with Assassin's Creed 3. They had the Batman Arkham City, Mass Effect. Those three right there, John, are huge
Yeah.
those are huge third-party games and franchises.
They had really good third-party support from day one, and then it just dried up immediately.
They had
And it had a disappointing launch. And we've been talking about the numbers going down until the Wii, but the Wii U sold even less than the GameCube. You know, so I mean, we're seeing every console drop in sales except for the Wii to this point, which is really hard to believe right now with the Switch. But like their consoles were always going down except for the one console, the Wii.
And like we said, the other third party they had was Darksiders 2, which again for me is one of my top 10 games of all time. I don't know why, I just loved it.
Yeah.
But again, it was a lot of games there. I played a lot of quality games, and I still go by game-changing technology here for home consoling. It really influenced the Switch moving forward.
It really does show. Oh, go ahead.
No, it does. And like I said, I think they were a little ahead of their time, but to me, it did exactly what it needed to do. And it allowed me to play video games on a console at home with the option to play on my couch while my wife wanted to watch, the TV. So you could be in the same room as your family members. I'm sure you too, John, at the time. I mean, your kids were probably just being born or younger, right?
They were younger.
And sometimes you just want to relax, and it's the perfect thing for that. Absolutely.
This was the first home console I played Bayonetta 2 on the portable, because I couldn't play it in front of the kids. This is a system, I have a weird opinion here, but years from now, you know how people still make games for Super Nintendo, they still make games for Dreamcast, you get these little home indie games. I think you're going to see a really cool market of Wii U games. I think the Wii U has a huge untapped gaming market where you can do these second screen experiences that have not been tapped. And I can see having some really cool indie games come out down the road.
Let me ask you this. Do you foresee ever, with what the Switch is today, and we're going to get to this in a second, when they do Switch 2, Switch Pro, whatever the hell you want to call it, do you ever foresee somehow being able to utilize what the Wii U did and being able to play the Switch handheld and on the TV at the same time, utilizing the second screen?
Yeah, possibly optionally. I don't think you'll see any games that require it. But I can see some games that are like, hey, we got a feature, a different game mode you can play. I think it's possible, but yeah. It's possible, but it's probably something only Nintendo would do.
Zombie U, it helped big time being able to switch, because you needed to switch weapons and stuff instantly. The maps were the big one where you could keep the screen nice and clean. And,
I would say instantly, like having it on the gamepad could be quick. But remember, this was the game where you when you wanted to go into your bag and you put it down and the game didn't pause. And you could actually see on the screen your character looking at their bag, and you were typing in, but you had to keep an eye on things, and it was so much fun. Yeah. I remember New Super Mario Brothers U had a terrible second screen experience where it was somebody could put platforms, but Nintendo Land is still to this day the best example of second screen, especially games like Mario Chase. I mean that was incredibly fun, where you go hide. And you had to go find all the toads. That game is still incredibly fun to play. That's the kind of game that makes me want to set up the Wii U again. I mean, it is, and I think, like I said, I think years down the road, I think there's going to be a market of making these incredible multi-screen experiences on the Wii U. I think it's going to have its heyday. But man, it was just short of 14 million in sales, and had to be the low point for Nintendo. once again, the portable was carrying the day. If it wasn't for the 3DS, Nintendo might have. I mean, if they didn't have the 3DS, Nintendo might have just thrown in the towel at this point. That console was so bad. But we get to the Nintendo Switch. And the cool part is we all know the launch titles because it's still fresh in our memory.
Yep.
But only one title mattered, Drew.
That's it. That's all it did. Still is the only one that really matters for now, right?
Yeah.
And it's the only one people are still looking forward to for a sequel. And of course, Breath of the Wild is that title. And it is the title that suckered everybody right into buying the Switch. I mean, Zelda can do that to you.
Yeah.
That's the magic of Zelda, right?
Yep.
It just draws you. And it's sad that now you almost have an expectation, right? So Nintendo is always going to have that of Zelda or Mario. That's it. If you don't have one of those on launch day, you're in trouble from the start.
And that's really the point of all this as we loop back to the Halo Infinite news. That's really the whole point of all this, is that when you launch a console, you want to get the attention of buyers as quickly as possible, because the sooner they buy the console, the sooner they become people that will buy, the next game at full price. Mm-hmm. If I buy a Switch at launch, which I did, or if I buy a Switch 5 years later, I'm buying those titles at reduced prices, used on eBay. It's not the same for Nintendo. Getting people in early means you're selling games for a much longer period of time, and you're also locking out other systems from getting sales. And that's why with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, it's going to be an arms race in the beginning, because if Tommy buys PS5, he's not buying Series X, right? Mm-hmm. If Catherine's buying Xbox Series X, she's not buying PS5. And that's why the launch, means a big deal. And look at the Switch. I mean, this is the first console after the Wii, right? 63 million in sales. Where do you think the Switch is going to go sales-wise? I mean, where do you think it ends up? Do you think it hits 100 million? I think so.
I think you just continue to pump out the software,
Yeah.
But that's
this
a lot.
year hasn't been the year, but
I don't know. I mean, I think that's still a long ways to go. I think that's still a lot of sales.
So I was thinking of something the other day, because I was thinking the Switch probably should go for a price drop with the new consoles coming out. But it really does occur to me, the other two consoles are going all in, and they're going to be like $500. So the Switch, even though it's going to be a little long in the tooth, it's still going to be $300 or $200 for a Switch Lite. So it's still going to have a huge upside in its price. That could really help in 2021. If they were to drop the price to $250, though, I just think they would just accelerate their sales. So I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know if they need to do it.
Or they need to keep it at 300 and throw a game in. Throw in the Odyssey or Mario Kart and make those 300.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd be willing to do those, because those are systems, those are the games you buy when you buy the system, right? I mean, when somebody buys a Switch.
Yeah, but it's irrelevant, I think, right? Yeah. I mean, it's $250 and then you buy the game. I mean, what it does, John, is I think it helps them boost their sale numbers for their software.
I mean, they should throw in 1-2 Switch, honestly. What's 1-2 Switch isn't selling anymore. Just start throwing 1-2 Switch in. That's what they should have done in the first place.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. I think they're going to do pretty good in sales. Obviously we'll see a sales drop at some point, but a price drop. But yeah, those other two consoles are going to be really expensive, and it's going to be interesting to see the Switch possibly just keep humming along at that price tag.
Do you think? So the Switch has been out for 2.5 years. No, 3.5 years.
3.5.
3.5. Do you think? Do we see some type of Switch 2.0 with Breath of the Wild 2?
Possible. I don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, what better way to show off, either if it's graphically enhanced or a new feature? I mean, what better way to do that with their Keystone game there? I mean, that's... So I think now's a better time than ever. I do. Whether we see Breath of the Wild this year, which I don't think so, or next year. I mean, especially if it's next year, you're talking about 4 years, right?
Yeah.
That's not out of the ballpark to introduce a new version of a software, right? I mean, hardware. I know it's still
If you
young.
consider it the next console, it's way too soon, especially for a
I
console
don't
doing
know.
so well.
I don't think we'll see a next console at this point with the Switch's concept. I think it's going to be more of like a, DSi or 3DS type thing.
The more that I think about it, the more I say no. Did you mention if Breath of the Wild 2 would actually work on the original Switch?
I think it would. I think, just like,
Okay.
just like with game, I think
It would
it'd be
have to.
that compatible. But what I mean by enhancement would be to show off maybe it's a graphical improvement or,
I think that's acceptable. I think there'd be people that'd be mad about it. Here's my example. The PS4 had a couple really big titles this year, right? And let's just take Last of Us 2, okay? Follow up to a very popular title. And I remember when it was coming out, I remember thinking to myself, man, they should have just waited on this game for the launch of the PS5. Because then you can launch the PS5 and say, The Last of Us 2 is launching with the PS5. And that would be a huge thing, right? A lot of people would go right to the PS5, no hesitation. I want to play this game. And it has the benefit of being a story-based game where you could get some spoilers, right? It's not a platformer that's just fun to play whenever. It's the story game, so people are going to buy it right away. But they didn't do that. And the reason why they didn't do that is because there's 100 million people with a PS4. Right? Probably less than 100 million people, but they've sold 100 million units. And they have a PS4. You have a huge market. When you sell that game, you have all these people that have a PS4.
Yeah.
If you were to sell the, let's just say if you were to sell the Breath of the Wild 2 and launch it with a Switch Pro and the game required the Switch Pro,
that'd be dumb.
It'd be a huge mistake, right?
Agreed.
Now, they got away with it with Breath of the Wild because they also put it on the Wii U, right? So it didn't matter. It was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, but how many sales do you think they got on the Wii U?
It doesn't matter. Their whole market could buy that game. They didn't cut a market out. That's why they did it. And they did sell a bunch on the Wii U. But if they made it only for the Switch, your market just starts really small because this is like a launch system. So that's why Sony didn't do that. Even though, God, think how amazing that would have been. And then PS4 also just put out Ghosts of Tsushima, right? They could have held that one out just a few months and made it a launch title. And they didn't because there's so many PS4s. You have a huge purchasing market. So here's the problem. If you do Breath of the Wild 2 as a launch title for the Switch Pro, you're going to still piss people off. Even if they can play it on the Switch, you're still going to have the problem where people say, well, now I don't have the ultimate experience, right? Now I have this shitty experience. And it's kind of insulting.
Yes
Here's
and no.
this great
yes
system.
And no.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the people that are diehard enough to care will get the system. And the people that are just, I'm happy with my Switch, won't care.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my take.
Yeah.
But
these are huge decisions. And we'll just wrap this topic up by saying, look, Halo Infinite being delayed does not mean the Series X is dead on arrival. But like you said, it is a monstrous mistake because Xbox One has been dead in the water for a long time, and they have been planning the Series X for years. Okay, 2 years at least. They've been planning this, and they saw from Breath of the Wild, they need a big launch title that represents the system. Halo was the game, and they had to get it out. And I understand delaying a game is better than having a bad game. But they needed to have this planned out. They had to get this out, whether it was reduce the features or roll out content slowly. They needed to figure out whatever they needed to figure out earlier to get this game out. You could have pulled stuff out of this game and said, we're going to have new content for the first year.
For free.
People love that shit, right?
Yep.
So just pull that stuff out and make the game experience better. And they really blew it. But they do have a chance if they announce some other titles. But what we've seen here is the launch titles don't necessarily translate to success. Where we see, obviously, the Breath of the Wild is what made the Switch such a success. I don't think the Switch is as big a success without Breath of the Wild, right, at launch. I think it'll be good, but I think that really set the cue. Everybody was playing that game.
Agreed.
But the Wii U had a pretty good set of launch titles, even if New Super Mario Bros. U wasn't like mind blowing. But Nintendo Land was, and Zombie U was a pretty hyped up game, and obviously it did nothing. Meanwhile, the 3DS did not have a good launch lineup, and it sold 75 million. So we see it over and over again. It really helps with the launch, but a system can still recover. And even though Halo Infinite is not there at launch, and that is a fuck up, Xbox can still have a really great 2021 lineup and dig out from the dead. I think they're going to lose a bunch of sales they would have had to Sony. People who were ready to buy a Series X are going to say, I'll just buy a PS5 instead now. They're going to lose some sales. But, I mean, they can recover. It's just really is disappointing, and it's people are going to lose jobs over that one, I'll tell you that much. And that had to be a horrific decision for someone to make. To say, okay, we're going to delay it. Like, oh, God, that announcement, that their PR was ready, and they were just like, oh, boy, get ready for the blowback. So, crazy. But that was fun. That was fun going through all those launch lineups. It's a lot of those games I didn't even realize were launch games, especially those earlier systems. So, I got to say, I'll have to say, Super Nintendo, I think, had the best launch lineup in Nintendo history.
Not bad.
Mario World, F-Zero, Pilot Wings, SimCity. Holy shit. That is 4 big hitters in history.
They are big.
So cool.
Yeah, so I think that it's it, right? I mean, that was a fun topic. We went through it all. All you listeners out there are sorry. We did have a bunch of questions and stuff we wanted to talk about, but none of them really are too time specific, so I think we're going to save those. And we'll talk about them next episode, just because we're running long here. And
maybe the next episode we'll do nothing but questions.
I like that idea.
Let's just get a bunch of questions and just spend the whole episode answering them.
We can do that. Let's do that. All right, so we want to thank the Nintendo Dads, as always, for letting us be part of their amazing Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. And if you go over to their Patreon and join them, it gives you access to our Discord channel, where we can we get raunchy, we have fun, we let it all go there. Also, remember to keep in mind we also have our monthly Mayhem access there. So really, to be part of our monthly Mayhem, you do need to be a Patreon of the Nintendo Dads, which gets you into the Discord channel where you post your high scores and all of that stuff. Absolutely. And then, as always, follow us on Twitter at the letter N, Dads After Dark. You can send us questions there, like all the posts that John put out there, or comment on them, of all of that fun stuff. John, what do we have going on over the next couple of weeks?
Drew, what's coming out on August 21st?
A game I've been waiting for a long time. PGA Tour 2K. August 21st.
2K1. 2K1.
2K1? 2K20? 1.
2K21.
So August 21st is the digital only download. And that's okay. I mean, would I prefer Mario Golf? Absolutely. But to tell me that I might be able to beat Tiger Woods or somebody, I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm going to give it a go. I'll let you guys know what I think when we come back. What else? Another one here, John.
For you.
I appreciate that.
We are finally getting Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on August 27th. I can't believe the game's actually coming out. It's gone through a couple delays. I'm really, really excited for this. I don't even know if I'll play it. But everybody knows somebody who is out of their fucking mind excited for this game. This game is a port of a GameCube game that you needed Game Boy Advances to play, and you needed a link cable to the GameCube. So this was like a really hard game to play through. And now on a Switch, you just need people with Switches. Mm-hmm. You can actually even play with just one copy of the game, I believe. So
nice.
I really want to play this game, but I need to find a partner. I might go on the Discord and see if somebody wants to partner up and kind of play through this game. It's going to be tricky. But I've heard nothing but amazing things about this game. So let's see. Maybe we need to get a channel on the Discord for this one and get some crews together. You know?
Yeah,
I think that would be fun.
I think so.
Yeah.
But
My browser just opened up like 20 tabs on Discord. I have no idea what I did, but that was crazy.
You probably clicked the porn link.
I mean, I just sit there and watch 20 at the same time.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This was a fun episode, and I'll see you guys next time.
Later, Dad.